Hello, I'm Mike, and in this video you join me with the all-new 2021 Genesis G80. It is quite amazing how far Genesis has come. I mean, 10 years ago it used to be called the Hyundai Genesis. Now it's a luxury brand. But that means it has to compete against that. Yes, this is the Mercedes-Benz E-class. So the question then is, how good is the Genesis G80 against the benchmark luxury sedan? To find that out, let's go for a drive. So, starting things off in the Mercedes E-class, just gotta do a full disclosure here. This is the E450 and it is the pre-2021 facelift. The more comparable E-class to the Genesis G80 would be the E350, but unfortunately I couldn't get my hands on that one at the moment. But anyway, this E450 is available with a twin-turbocharged V6. The newer one has an inline 6 with a mild hybrid system, but the power remains the same, 362 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque. In the E350, you get 255 horsepower and about 270 pound-feet of torque, which is actually less than the 2.5 liter version of the Genesis G80. 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in the E350 is around 6.1 seconds, whereas in the G80 it's around 5.7 seconds. Upgrade to the more powerful engines in both cars and 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in this E450 is around 5 seconds. And it's pretty much the same story in the G80. And in the Genesis, things are a little bit different than in the E-class. Like I said, this one has the 2.5 liter turbocharged engine and it produces 300 horsepower and 311 pound-feet of torque. That's about 45 horsepower more than the base E350. You can also get a twin turbocharged V6 with this Genesis G80 and that'll produce about 375 horsepower and 391 pound-feet of torque, which is more in line with the E450. But with 300 horsepower, this 2.5 liter engine actually has a good amount of go. It pushes you to the back of your seat a little bit, so you do feel that surge in acceleration. However, it doesn't feel quite as sprightly as the Mercedes E-class, at least with the V6. Maybe it's different with the V6 and this one, but I haven't had a chance yet to test drive that one. However, I think for most people, 300 horsepower and 311 pound-feet of torque is enough. This isn't meant to be a sporty luxury sedan like the Mercedes. And actually, speaking of which, with the Mercedes, you can get AMG versions of it. Genesis doesn't have anything that's equivalent to that. But this is meant to be a luxury sedan. So top speed and going really fast around the racetrack is just not what Genesis does. It's not what it's about. This is a daily commuter. It's a comfortable highway cruiser, and it excels at that. This engine is rated for 7.9 liters per 100 kilometers on a highway and 10.8 liters per 100 kilometers in a city. The highway fuel economy figure I can believe because I have noticed really low fuel economy numbers when I've been driving on a highway, but in the city I've been struggling to reach that 10.8 target. Mated with this 2.5 engine and as well the 3.5 engine is an 8-speed automatic transmission. You pretty much don't even notice it shifting. It is that smooth and it's quick. It's not dual clutch quick, but it's quick for an automatic. You can also take over shifting duties with the steering wheel mounted paddle shifters, but they're a little bit on the slow side to react to your inputs. However, just let the car do its thing and you'll be perfectly happy with it. I mean, just put your foot down, immediately downshifts, and you're away. In terms of cornering, the Mercedes definitely feels a bit more alive and sprightly as opposed to the Genesis. Push it into a corner and it just feels like it weighs less than its roughly 1900 kilogram curb weight. The new generation Genesis G80 doesn't feel as sporty to drive around corners like the E-class. It does sit on a new platform that is lighter and more rigid than the last generation G80. It gives the new G80 a wider stance and makes the car feel stable around corners and highway speeds. But you get the feeling that it doesn't really want to be pushed to its limits on twisty roads. To be honest, I'm okay with that. As I said earlier, the Genesis G80's primary focus is to provide comfort and the utmost luxury. If you want a sports sedan, then the AMG versions of the E-class are the ones to look at. The ride of the Mercedes E-class is a teeny tiny bit firmer than that of the Genesis G80. I am noticing bumps a little bit more in this E450 than I am in the G80 2.5 Advance. In the G80, the ride is more supple. It's not overly floaty because you do still feel connected to the road, but the suspension is tuned to be a bit softer than that of the E-class. Upgrade to the 3.5 Prestige and it comes equipped with adaptive dampers. It's also really quiet in this Genesis G80. I can barely hear the engine when I'm just cruising. Obviously, if you put your foot down, you can hear it more. And you can also tell the infotainment system to artificially pump in more engine noise if you want. But overall, it is very, very quiet in here. In terms of space in the Genesis G80, there's plenty of it here in the front. I have loads of legroom, loads of headroom, and I can even move the seat further back. In the back seats, there's plenty of room for someone of my height at 6'4". My knees kind of brush up a little bit against my driving position, but I don't feel squished at all, and headroom is also pretty good. Drop down the center console and you have a couple of cup holders, as well as the heated seat controls and a button, I should say, for the rear sunshade. The side door sunshades in the back are manual, so you have to raise them yourself. Also, you can, once you drop that center console in the back, you also have a pass-through to the trunk. In terms of space in the Mercedes, obviously there's plenty of it in the front, but in the back, the E-class has less legroom than the Genesis. My knees feel a bit more squished against the back of the front seat behind my driving position. However, if you need to carry stuff, the E-class offers more cargo space at 540 liters versus 370 liters in the G80. Furthermore, the back seats can fold down in the Mercedes, whereas they can't in the G80. Both vehicles come with hands-free power trunks, but they operate differently. The Genesis requires you to stand in front of the trunk for 5 seconds before it opens, whereas the Mercedes has a more traditional kick-to-open function. Here in the front, the interior design of the Genesis G80 definitely exudes luxury. It's not as look at me as it is in the Mercedes-Benz, but it feels elegant. You have a 14.5-inch touchscreen up top, and while the graphics are great and it responds very quickly to your inputs, it does have a couple of issues, minor ones, I should say. Firstly, it is a touchscreen, obviously, but reaching it can be a little bit challenging for some. I am 6'4", so I do have really long arms, so I don't have to get up off my seat all that much. But reaching for anything on the right side, well, it feels like you're reaching into another time zone. You can use this little rotary control down here next to the shifter, but a week later, that's how long I've had this car now, and I'm still not used to it. I still prefer using the touchscreen. It feels weird. I kind of wish it were a more traditional rotary knob, like how the gear selector is. This one just, yeah, I'm still not used to it. Underneath the touchscreen, you have a few quick menu buttons as well as the climate controls. One thing I should mention about the climate controls, they are piano black on the side buttons, but the center touchscreen has haptic feedback, and it looks really good. In the Mercedes, the interior looks a bit more interesting in my eyes compared to the Genesis. It still exudes luxury with the soft leather and wood trim, but it doesn't look as traditional as it does in the G80. Now this particular Genesis G80 is the base model, if you can call it a base model, at $66,000 Canadian. So you don't have the full instrument cluster, full digital instrument cluster. Actually, if you go for the Prestige trim with the 3.5 twin-turbo V6, then you do get the full digital cluster, and it's sort of a 3D effect. Think of Nintendo 3DS. Same principle. You don't have to wear glasses to see the 3D effect. Pretty cool. Other gadgets on this 2.5 advanced trim include the panoramic sunroof, heated and ventilated front seats, a head-up display, wireless phone charging, and a full suite of advanced driver and safety aids. As for exterior design, the Genesis G80 is a very hard car to miss. The exterior is a polar opposite to the interior. It is striking to look at with the grille that encompasses the majority of the bumper. That shield design is carried to the back in the form of the exhaust tips. By contrast, the Mercedes E-Class looks dull. Even with the updated 2021 facelift, it still doesn't look as striking as the Genesis G80. This 2021 G80 2.5 Advanced all-wheel drive starts at $66,000 Canadian, which is a little over $1,000 more than the starting price of the 2021 Mercedes E350 4MATIC. If you're watching this in the United States, the Genesis G80 is also available as a rear-wheel drive only car, and as such, the starting price is $47,700 US. With all-wheel drive, it's $50,850 US. For the Prestige all-wheel drive, you'll be paying $76,000 Canadian, which again is a little bit more expensive than the starting price of the 2021 E450. However, the G80 is better equipped at those starting prices than the equivalent E-Class. In order for the Mercedes to have the same features, you have to add on the packages and options, which will easily raise the price by $10,000 or more. So in the end, although this Genesis badge is not as prestigious as this Mercedes-Benz badge, the Genesis G80 is a fantastic luxury sedan. Now I know there's going to be quite a few of you out there who are going to say, if I'm looking to buy a Mercedes-Benz, I'm not really going to be looking at a Genesis. And you know what? You're right. Genesis has quite a ways to go before it reaches the same prestigiousness as Mercedes-Benz. But if they keep making cars like this, then I'm pretty sure that one day they will be there. But for now, the Genesis G80 is a fantastic alternative if you don't want to spend the amount of money on this. You get a whole lot more value for your money with the G80 than you do with the Mercedes-Benz. If you want to know more about both of these cars, I wrote comprehensive and detailed reviews of them over on my website. You can find the links in the video description. And as always, I will see you in the next car or truck or maybe SUV versions of these two. Who knows? Anyway, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.